concerns over exposure to the coronavirus, the city has implemented measures to protect our community, including the closing of council chambers and limiting public attendance to electronic means only. Members of the public may view live proceedings on Tempe Channel 11 or attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx events by visiting tempe.gov/clerk for more information. Item number 1, we're going to start with a moment of silence. If we could just take a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go ahead and get started here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up, item number 3, meeting minutes. I'm going to be assisted tonight by Councilmember Cubie. Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't seem to have this up. Can someone take over for me?
I could. All right. Let's see. Vice Mayor Keating, can I turn to you?
Mayor,
yes, Mayor, I move we approve items 3A.
Okay. It's been moved by Vice Mayor Keating for approval of 3A 1 through 4. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I had a second from Councilmember Garland, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The meeting minutes are approved 7-0. Next up, I'm going to move to item 3B, which is acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes. Vice Mayor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I move we approve items B 1 through 12.
Great. Thank you. But moved by Vice Mayor Keating. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Navarro. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The board, commission, and committee meeting minutes are approved 7-0. Next up, we have item 4, reports and announcements. First up is mayor's reports and announcements. Just want to state that every year, the city's boards and commissions are responsible for preparing and submitting an annual report to the mayor and city council. The annual report details the membership, accomplishment, goals, attendance, and the overall work of our boards and commissions. The 5th annual 2020 Boards and Commissions Annual Report will be published in the City Council Weekly Information Packet and on the Boards and Commissions webpage and publicized through MailChimp, social media, and other city media releases this Friday, January 15th. On behalf of the entire City Council, I want to thank the more than 260 Tempe residents and community members who serve on our boards and commissions. We're grateful to have engaged individuals willing to take time away from their own very busy lives and family and friends to make a difference in the city in which they live. So thank you to everyone for serving. Next up here, item number 2 for me is the acknowledgement of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community representatives. Tonight, we're grateful to have with us Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community Vice President Leonard. He is here tonight to represent the city's partnership with SRP MIC in our effort to develop a formal land acknowledgement statement that recognizes the lands that comprise present-day Tempe as being culturally affiliated with the O'odham, Peeposh, and their ancestors. The SRP MIC Tribal Historic Preservation Officer Shane Anton, along with assistance from the Gila River Indian Community's Tribal Historic Preservation Office, provided vital input in the drafting of the statement, ensuring the language in the statement accurately reflected the significant history and culture of the O'odham and Peeposh. This resolution is item 5C8 on the consent agenda. And Madam Clerk, at this time, I would like to pull this off the consent agenda to be read into the record and voted upon with our members and partners here at the table with us. Before I have Councilmember Garland read the resolution into the record and a vote's taken, I would like to turn it over to Vice President Leonard to see if he would like to comment.
Mayor Woods and members of the Tempe Council, good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Ricardo Leonard. I am currently the Vice President of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. Thank you for giving us a few minutes to start your meeting. I want to start by saying it has always been a pleasure to work with you and the city to build a lasting relationship on all of the issues we share. From the items that are on your agenda tonight, 12% gaming grant program and the land acknowledgement resolution, to other issues such as cultural resource protection and development, we look forward to working with you to improve our relationships in the region. There's the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I believe best represents our goal. As neighbors, I think we all have an interest to improve our neighborhood here in the East Valley. May I appreciate that we can keep the lines of communication open. I want to thank you, Mayor Woods and Councilwoman Garland, as well as much as I would like to be meeting with you in person, we must do all we can to be safe and healthy. There will come a day, and I hope soon, when we can get past this historical year and know that our communities will be much safer. I'm hopeful that sometime soon we will be able to once again share a meal and break bread together. Thank you for this time, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Vice President Leonard. We really appreciate having you with us this evening. And now I'd like to turn it over to someone who really, truly made history this past year, Councilmember Doreen Garland, if you would do us the honors of reading the resolution into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number R2021-08, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Tempe, Arizona, recognizing the lands that comprise present-day Tempe as being culturally affiliated with the O'odham, Pipash, and their ancestors, and establishing a protocol for acknowledgement of same. Whereas the ancestral O'odham and their direct descendants, the O'odham Pima, have lived on the land that comprises present-day Tempe since time immemorial. And whereas the Pipash Maricopa have long been confederated with and lived amongst the O'odham, and whereas United States Indian Claims Commission, docket 228, dated December 17th, 1970, declared the land area exclusively used and occupied by the O'odham and the Pipash at the time of American accession to encompass 3,751,000 acres, spanning almost the entirety of Maricopa County and much of Pinal County. And whereas the anthropological studies recognize the ancestral lands of the O'odham, Pipash, and their ancestors as a vast area ranging far beyond both the municipal limits of present-day Tempe and the exclusively used and occupied land area identified in the aforementioned United States Indian Claims Commission case. And whereas archaeological investigations in Tempe and neighboring communities have documented features and artifacts indisputably associated with the archaic through classic periods of the Hohokam cultural sequence. And whereas numerous Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act consultants have determined Native American human remains, associated funerary objects, sacred objects, and other objects of cultural patrimony taken from Tempe and its neighboring communities to be culturally affiliated with the ancestors of the O'odham and the Pipash. And whereas historical records dating to the Spanish, Mexican, and American periods of governance document O'odham and Pipash habitation in present-day Tempe and its neighboring communities. And whereas Charles Hayden and other Euro-American settlers of early Tempe succeeded in large part by adopting the knowledge and practices gained from their study of the advanced prehistoric irrigation system built and maintained by the ancestral O'odham and learned from their O'odham and Pipash neighbors. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Tempe, Arizona, hereby. Section 1. that the following statement acknowledging the land that comprises present-day Tempe as being culturally affiliated with the O'odham, Peepash, and their ancestors be reverently memorialized and made available for use in City of Tempe education endeavors, programs, ceremonies, holiday observances, land use decisions, and other applicable purposes. We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the Native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. Anthropological studies document large and advanced ancestral O'odham settlements located throughout the entirety of present-day Tempe and recognize the ancestral lands of the O'odham known as Pima and the Peepash known as Maricopa, and their ancestors as extending far beyond our community. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the O'odham of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community and the Gila River Indian community. The SRP, MIC, and GRIC, located northeast and south of Tempe, respectively, are confederations of two unique groups with their own languages, customs, and cultures, religions, and histories, the O'odham and the Peepash. Both the O'odham and the Peepash are oral history cultures. The land is sacred to the O'odham and the Peepash and reflects cultural values that are central to their way of life and their self-definition. Their oral history and song culture are indelibly tied to tangible places that are associated with specific historic, cultural, and religious values. Settlement patterns, advanced irrigation practices, and other lifeways driven by a deep understanding of and respect for the landscape are directly attributed to the ancestors of the O'odham and the Peepash and served as a template for the establishment of Tempe. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Garland. I was seriously trying to hold back tears watching you read that. So I'm taking a moment to kind of compose myself over here. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, we do have a community leader present, Debbie Nez Manuel.
Thank you so much. Debbie, you are recognized whenever you're ready to go.
Good evening. I'm really honored to be here today or this evening to hear these words, and really grateful to, it's really moving. I want to first express my appreciation to the Tempe leadership, and including the staff who played a critical role in working with tribes to establish and define what the land acknowledgement represents. Back in 2017, Morning Star Leaders, a nonprofit serving the needs of our Indigenous youth, planted seeds demonstrating how to engage with local municipalities. Year after year, we would tap on the shoulders to extend a reminder. So while our youth have grown into young adults, it's with this gratitude to see where we are today. Be it known that unraveling nearly 300 years of policy takes time. Let's continue to put action behind our words and move forward. Thank you so much in a very big way. Protecting the future of our youth is so vital. Ensuring that we take these steps and demonstrate to them who they are and what their future represents. We must continue to work together. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here tonight, Debbie. Next up, I'm going to turn to the council to see if there's any comments or discussion.
Mayor Woods?
Yes, Councilmember Adams.
Yes, I just want to thank Councilmember Garland for speaking, and Debbie also. And this is such an important part of our past, and I'm just really glad that we're doing this. So good job to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to give tribute to my fellow Councilmember Doreen Garland. Her words were so moving, the way she read those words, and reading that, the final sentence, that we accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action. I'm so proud tonight of whatever. I hope our vote will be in the affirmative, but I'm so proud that we're taking this step, and I realize the significance and the seriousness of this step. They're not empty words, but they are also beautiful words. And Doreen, thank you so much for shepherding this. And John Southard, your skills with the in historic preservation are legendary, and so grateful for you for bringing this to the attention of the council and the city staff, and working with SRP MIC, our dear partners at GRIC as well. Thank you for so much of your work. And Alex Smith also contributed greatly to this land acknowledged language, and I really appreciate his participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Any other council members, any comments or discussion? Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor Woods. No, it's been said, and I just want to state my appreciation for this council, working with SRP MIC and Darlene, just well read, and I really appreciate you reading this as we go forward with our resolution on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, too. I agree in regards to, I think, the importance that this has, and what a great reminder it is of this community and the cultures, I think, that really make us who we are. And I'm so grateful for the ability to bring this forward. I'm very happy to be supporting this tonight, and just a great appreciation to Councilmember Garland and the staff and our partners. Thank you so much for continuing to be part of Tempe, and will be for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes, as my esteemed colleague Navarro said, it has been said, but not said by everyone. I want to thank everyone that shepherded this through and brought this forward, our partners in the Salt River Indian Pima community, and city staff, and of course Doreen, beautifully read, Deb, Nez, Manuel, of course, as well. Thank you so much for all being great partners in our city and making sure that we recognize the deep history in the land that we now call Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Councilmember Garland.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to get back on and just say thank you, Mayor, for your support doing this. And I want to also thank my friend and council colleague, Lauren Cubie, because it was with Lauren that we started this just as a conversation a while ago, and with John and with Alex, and just so many people were just talking about the importance of something like this. And I just want to say thank you to them. And John and Alex, gentlemen, you guys have a passion for history and the first people of this area. And I really want to thank you for the time that you put into this, and to the rest of the staff that took the time to work on this. I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. And I will just say the same thing. The key word that really jumped out at me was responsibility. And it's just so important that we recognize, where we've come from, that we recognize the land that we currently are on, and that we actually maintain that sense of responsibility each and every day when it comes to our stewardship of the city of Tempe. And I think this is critically and vitally important. So I just wanted to thank everyone who played a role in bringing this to the council this evening. And thank you. And thank you to Councilmember Garland for your stewardship as well, and just such a moving presentation tonight. Thank you. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro.
I'm sorry, Mayor Woods. My hand was down.
Oh, no, I'm just calling for a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye.
Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 5C8 passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you again to Vice President Leonard, and please extend our thank you to President Javier for SRP MIC's time and attention on this initiative. And we look forward to continuing to work with you as members of the Tempe City Council. So thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, and thank you, Tempe City Council. I appreciate this, and it means so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, item B, City Manager's reports and announcements. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. And thank you for the opportunity to address a couple of items. First, on the agenda for tonight, we had planned to have a brief staff presentation about COVID-19 enforcement and education. But as we were researching it and putting together the presentation, we understood that it was a much more detailed type of presentation that we thought was better suited for next week's work study session. So that presentation is still coming to the public, but it'll be at the work study session on January 21st. So I would ask those watching to look out for that. But in this space instead, I would just take the opportunity on behalf of the employees here at the City of Tempe, especially our members of the Fire Medical Rescue Department and all of our first responders who have worked so hard, and everyone from the work done by our Strategic Management and Diversity Office for wastewater testing to everyone else who's worked in a very collaborative way to continue to send the message as a city that all of the things that we need to do and have needed to do to keep ourselves and our families and our loved ones safe during this pandemic, this lengthy pandemic, are as true today as they were back in March of 2020 when we first started really feeling the effects of the pandemic in our communities. If anything, it's more important today because the numbers that we are experiencing both here locally, in our region, our state, and in our country, and even worldwide are as concerning and as dire as they have ever been. And so now more than ever, we need to continue to reinforce the message that we have been communicating throughout, which is to practice safe practices, good hand hygiene, wearing of a mask whenever in public, to maintain the physical distance of a minimum of 6 feet between yourself and others, to avoid gatherings. All of that is still true. And to continue to keep updated that the City of Tempe provides twice a week updates in our news releases for COVID-19 specific, as well as regularly maintaining our dedicated COVID-19 website that has up-to-date information on a regular basis. We continue to work with our business community to make sure that they have the appropriate signage and continue to enforce the mask requirements. One of the things that we'll be looking at and addressing in next week's work study session item will be to have a greater discussion about possible additional enforcement and to continue to look at enforcing what we currently have in terms of the proclamations and any other applicable executive orders and regulations regarding safety. The education piece is a piece of it, but we also understand that the enforcement is also going to be a piece of it, and we appreciate the assistance that we get from our neighbors and residents in terms of keeping us informed about potential violations and following up on that. One of the ways that I would stress tonight, just briefly, that can happen can be to report violations, especially of businesses, through our 311 system, whether it be an online submission, a phone call, or even by email. So with all of that, I didn't want to get too far afield or in detail because staff will do a much better job than I have next week, but I wanted to just continue to say that we are, as a city and as a community, continue to take this pandemic and our response very seriously, and would continue to ask that you do all the things that we understand will help limit the spread, flatten the curve, and keep all of us safe. And that's all I have on that. Unless there are any questions from council, I can move on to the second item.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I see Vice Mayor Keating's hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. City Manager, for that update. I do have some follow-up questions that we discussed earlier on today, but I understand that staff is presenting a larger COVID presentation to council next week. So I'll keep my questions for that. I just do want to thank you and staff for working tirelessly to keep Tempeans safe. Contrary to, a council communicator we got, I believe you guys have done an excellent job of not only protecting Tempeans, but communicating what we're doing to Tempeans and making yourselves and our comm staff and everyone available to anyone that wants to listen and is interested in finding out what the city is doing. I'm very proud of Tempe's COVID response. So I wanted to go on record and say that to you tonight, even though I will have some additional questions at our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands, Mr. Ching, your next item. Oh, actually, I see Councilmember Cubie.
Oh, just to say, and thank you so much, Andrew. I really look forward to the presentation next week, especially the enforcement proposals that staff's bringing to us. It's just important to note that we had 1,500 cases in the last week, and that's 10% of all the cases that we've had since the global pandemic began. So imagine that, 1,500 cases in 1 week in Tempe. We don't know how long it's going to be before we come out of this. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to reevaluate and reassess and redirect. And I'm proud that our staff has that same mindset to innovate and to really find every possible way we can to protect the public health while protecting the economy. But we know that until we get this virus down, we're not going to have a healthy economy, at least the economy that we all want. So I look forward greatly to the discussion next week. And thank you for all the great communication work that Nikki and her team do. I think we're unparalleled in the Valley in the way our city staff communicate to our residents and the way we help our residents. And I want to give a shout out to Alex Chin, who spent time helping some residents on the phone the other day to get vaccination appointments. That's beyond the call of duty. I know how busy you are, but that was an amazing help for some of our residents who couldn't navigate the Arizona Department of Health Services vaccination station. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Any other council members, any comments or questions for the city manager? All right, hearing none, Mr. Ching, I know you've got one more item.
Thank you. I would now invite staff who are going to be presenting on City Start 2020, the financial empowerment update. I know they have a brief PowerPoint as well that will be put up on the screen here momentarily.
Thank you, Andrew. Whitedale Holmes with the Strategic Management and Diversity Office. And I'm happy to share that the city has been awarded a planning grant for an intensive 6-month engagement for technical assistance with the Cities for Financial Empowerment. And this is for creating a blueprint for financial empowerment across our city for our residents and our businesses. As the Strategic Management and Diversity Office, we understand the Council's commitment to Right to Breathe, financial navigators, hometown for everyone, equal pay, education, and supporting our businesses. And this blueprint will tie together these strategies for a comprehensive outcome. Tempe was selected through a competitive process along with 4 other cities to be in the 2020 cohort. These cities include Hennepin, Minnesota, Jackson, Tennessee, Montgomery, Alabama, and Pueblo, Colorado. And it's really a result, our application and the awarding of this grant is a result of the collaboration between the Strategic Management and Diversity Office, Human Services Department, and the Economic Development Office. The blueprint will support our achievement of Financial Inclusion Index, which is our performance measure 5.16, and it will address empowerment of our residents and businesses, supporting our COVID-19 recovery, as well as building capacity for future crises. The blueprint will help us center racial equity and our community needs. And at the end of this month, we will be engaging community stakeholders and financial institutions, our nonprofits, funders, as well as our residents to understand the main financial empowerment issues being faced in our community. Listed on the screen are some of the stakeholders that we are proposing to engage with, and we're very happy to take suggestions from our leadership, our council, as well as our other departments. And with that, I would like to also take a moment to introduce Brad Willows, who's here from who's online from the Cities for Financial Empowerment.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to say thank you first so much for allowing me to join you tonight. I'm very excited to be working with the City of Tempe on this initiative. Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, who I'm here representing, is a national nonprofit organization based in New York City. We work with local governments all across the country, about 105 different municipalities at the last count, to replicate programs focused on financial empowerment of residents in low-income communities. So again, we're very excited to be working with the City of Tempe. The application and everything that you have going on with your city government, including the Financial Navigators program, which is another one of our initiatives, was a huge factor in why we chose Tempe to join this cohort. Just to give you a sense of what this is going to look like, at the end of the initiative, we'll be producing, in partnership with the City of Tempe, a blueprint for financial empowerment in the community, as Wydale mentioned. And just so you know, this is an initiative that has been replicated now in 29 different cities across the country, ranging in size and geography from Anchorage, Alaska, Portland, Oregon, Boston, Durham, North Carolina, Rochester, New York, and several cities kind of all in between. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you tonight. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the fantastic team from the City of Tempe. And if there are any questions that I can answer about our work or about the City Start program, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Wydale. Members of council, any comments or questions, I guess, for Brad, Wydale, or Andrew? All right. Hearing none, I think it's wonderful. So great initiative, and obviously, thank you, Wydale, you and the Strategic Planning Division for spearheading this. I think it's an excellent initiative and something, once again, that Tempe will continue to be known for. So just really appreciate all of your efforts and that of the entire department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and City Manager. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, Mr. City Manager, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to acknowledge and to express our sympathies to the families of former Tempe Police Chief Ron Burns, who passed away over the holidays. I got to know Ron when I first started working in the police department as a part of the city attorney's office as the legal advisor. He was the chief at the time, and I don't know if I've ever known a more kind and gracious person to hold that title of chief. He welcomed me into the department and working with them in that capacity from day one. And that's just the kind of big-hearted person that Ron Burns was. And I think that anybody who's worked around him for any length of time, in his many years at the City of Tempe, he also worked in Kirkland, Washington, and in Lakewood, Colorado as police chief. And so, his career in law enforcement was impressive, but his character was even more impressive, and I'll certainly miss Chief Burns. I also want to extend condolences to the family of former Police Sergeant Chuck Scoville, who passed away this week. Chuck made a huge impact in terms of both public relations for the City of Tempe and also in working on his work at the gang unit, not just here locally, but nationwide. And Chuck, again, just another incredibly genuine and good-hearted individual who we will all miss. And lastly, to express condolences to the family and to the larger ASU community for the tragic accident that took the life of one of their police officers today in a vehicle crash on Route 101. Our condolences go out to his family as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Absolutely, our condolences go out to the families of all three. Thank you very much for noting that. Next up here, item number 5 here, which is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove public hearing items for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated by an asterisk. Council members may remove an item for separate consideration or to declare a conflict of interest. If a council member would like to declare a conflict at this time, the city clerk will provide the council member with a disclosure form. The public may also submit written comments via the City of Tempe speaker comment card system on tempe.gov/clerk. So the consent agenda tonight is announced as miscellaneous items 5A1 through 5A9, awards of bids and contracts, items 5B1 through 5B19, and resolutions, item 5C1 through 5C10, with the exception of item 5C8 that was just voted on earlier by the council. Madam Clerk, I would also like to pull agenda items 5A9 and 5C10. I also want to just note again, once again, any agenda item marked with an asterisk is a public hearing item and can be removed by a member of the public for separate consideration. Council, are there any agenda items that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda for separate consideration?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Navarro.
5A5.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Any other council members? Items for removal from the consent agenda. All right. Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion on all items on the consent agenda with the exception of 5A5, 5A9, 5C10.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Vice Mayor Keating and seconded by Councilmember Navarro. I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro.
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Sorry, Mayor. Aye.
Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The consent agenda passes unanimously 7-0. All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead then and start with item 5A5. That item is to authorize the city manager or designee to negotiate exclusively with Gorman & Company, LLC, for an agreement for the purchase or lease and development of city-owned land located at 2431 East Apache Boulevard. The parcel was offered for the development of multifamily housing units, of which at least 51% must be available for occupancy for affordable and/or workforce and/or senior households. This item was pulled by Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to briefly recognize, I know that we often go through council meetings not working towards affordability within our community, but I just want to let people know that this council does and constantly, in my opinion, behind the scenes, whenever developers, whenever we have new projects coming in town, we always make in mind or always try to establish the need of affordability within our community. And this is just another situation, or not a situation, just another approval showing that this is what our intent has always been, is to try to stay the course of what we need within our community. And I know that we have some rough council meetings, and especially some in the past, but I just want to recognize that, you know, whenever we can strike a deal, whenever we can work with developers, we often do get things that are needed for the city. And I appreciate what we're trying to achieve here on this vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Any other members of council? Any comments or questions on item 5A5?
Move to approve item 5A5.
Great. Moved by Vice Mayor Keating, seconded by Councilmember Navarro. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro? Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 5A5 passes unanimously, 7-0. Next up, we have item 5A9, which is to approve a transfer of budget appropriation from the general fund contingency budget to the restricted revenue fund, Human Services COVID Recovery Initiative's cost center budget to provide appropriation for the anticipated expenses to be incurred for an increase in homeless shelter options. These funds will be utilized to fund an immediate increase in shelter availability and associated costs. The shelter options could be utilized for congregate and or non-congregate shelter options. The most rapidly implementable shelter option expansion will be implemented. This item was not a public hearing, but I chose to pull it in my role as chair. I believe we have Deborah Arteaga, the Executive Director of Tempe Community Action Agency, who'd like to speak.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Deborah. Y'all set.
TCAA and several Tempe churches of various denominations, as you all know, have partnered to provide emergency shelter through the iHelp program in Tempe for 15 years next month. This shelter offers 40 beds and it serves roughly 300 adults annually, offering safe nighttime space provided by the church partners and daily meals that are prepared and served by residents of Tempe who are actively involved in solving homelessness in their hometown. Among the people served in iHelp Shelter, nearly 50% tend to be older adults, 3/4 reports having a disability, and 43% are chronically homeless. This is similar to the target group for the proposed motel rooms. With support from Tempe businesses like State Farm and Silicon Valley Bank, we opened the Oasis Drop-In Center last summer so that people living on the streets in Tempe can have a place to go during the day to seek help and resources. The Oasis Center is also a daytime resource site for iHelp clients. It's an extension of our shelter services. Last year, our faith partners expressed an interest in expanding iHelp so that more people can be sheltered. This would require additional funding for things like case management, supplies, supervisory, and logistical support. We recommended expanding iHelp shelter capacity last January before COVID hit our community, and again in May when the initial motel room approach was decided. It goes without saying that the nonprofit industry operates human service programs at a lower cost than government while making a tremendous impact in local communities. With the $450,000 in general funds, iHelp can shelter an additional 40 beds per night or another 300 over the course of a year. In fact, with the added efficiencies and the in-kind contributions provided by our partners, we can stretch this amount to 18 months and serve even more people homeless in Tempe, far more than the motel approach. The motel proposal will pay roughly $70 a day, which includes tax, for 45 motel rooms for 12 months. This equates to $1.1 million just in motel costs alone, not including other city funds and resources that were recommended with this approach. This is nearly 3 times the cost, far fewer people, compared to expanding iHelp, the existing shelter. Surely this is not the only and the most cost-effective solution to meeting the immediate need. Another option might be very short-term use of motel rooms, such as for 1 or 2 months, while iHelp gears up to double its capacity. Creating and implementing solutions to addressing human service needs should be an open, collaborative process. We recommend tabling this matter to allow for an open and transparent discussion with partners or considering our alternate recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Deborah. Really appreciate it. Madam Clerk, I believe you have one card on this item as well.
Yes, I do, Mayor. It comes from Shireen Lerner. And Shireen writes, I am pleased that the council is seeking to appropriate money to fund an increase in shelter availability. I am not sure of the proposed options, but I recommend you consider Tempe Community Action Agency. As you know, TCAA operates iHelp, an emergency shelter program. The shelter currently serves 40 adults per night, 350 adults per year, but TCAA could double that number to 700 adults per year given the funds to do so. Cost for sheltering additional people will be far less and will allow the funds to go further if the city partners with TCAA and iHelp. iHelp clients who are unemployed also use the Oasis Center during the day, which gives them opportunities for assistance to land on their feet. I asked the council to consider a partnership with Tempe Community Action Agency. In early 2020, TCAA recommended to the city an expansion of the iHelp model for increasing emergency shelter in Tempe because it already exists. It is cost effective and now with the Oasis Center has daytime support. At the very least, TCAA should be at the table for discussions on how best to serve these people in need. And that's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Dr. Lerner, for your comments as well. Okay, let's see. Council, any comments or questions on this item? Or perhaps actually I can ask Naomi Farrell, our Human Services Director, to give a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, first I'd like to say Human Services definitely values TCA's partnership, and we definitely recognize the importance of resource that iHelp is to our homeless community. And we do support the expansion of that program. And in fact, recently we have identified the expansion of iHelp as a future option as we explore ways to expand shelter in Tempe. Again, we will always welcome TCAA and other nonprofit providers of shelter and homeless programs and services to the table to discuss as we work toward ending homelessness. As we know, Human Services is not able to do this alone, but we do rely heavily on our nonprofits. I will say the decision to bring to Council the consideration of expanding our motel shelter option was based on a number of reasons. One, with the increase in COVID cases, the use of motels as non-congregate shelter does provide a healthy and safe environment, especially for the individuals that are medically vulnerable. The motel will allow them to have their individual space, access to showers. The motel option also allows us to address multiple populations of people experiencing homelessness. For example, families with children, or singles, those that are disabled, again, medically vulnerable, and people with pets. And we're very pleased with the motel. They have agreed to allow pets, which is often a major barrier to getting individuals and families into shelter. The shelter will also be available for 24 hours a day. This would address the need for them not to be in parks during the day. And then again, another plus for us was that they were allowing pets in the rooms. Hope and Care 7 will provide those wraparound services, and the rooms would be available as of Monday. Our current non-congregate shelter motel option that we've been utilizing has been very successful with the wraparound services and the case management, moving those out of the motels into permanent supportive housing. Again, there was much discussion and consideration, and we just found that this was the best option for us right now, the immediate option. Again, we are looking at all different options of shelter, and we welcome the partners and to the table for those discussions as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. So I've just got a few quick things here. Actually, I'll let Councilmember QB go first, then I'll go after her.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I wanted to acknowledge the concerns. We got a number of emails from board members from Tempe Community Action Agency, an agency we greatly respect and partner with. So, and thank you so much, Deb, for speaking tonight. And you know, I'm one, and I think the council would agree that housing instability and houselessness are needing of a variety of solutions. There's not just one solution. And I too want to see an iHelp expansion. I'm very aware that city staff and Deb participated in a task force last year and determined that iHelp expansion could happen and is important to our overall homelessness response. And you know, I think it's essential, and I know the expansion could happen in even 3 months' time, but there is an urgency now, and it's due to COVID conditions. So the expenditure we are voting on tonight is an interim solution. It's not meant to be a permanent solution. And staff, I understand, has recently negotiated a very good price to Super 8. I'm not sure what that price is. I was asking staff as we were speaking. Oh, it's actually $59 a night. So it was negotiated down from $79. So $59 a night. And it can house men, women, families, couples, and most importantly, in my mind, people with pets, because I know from participating in the point in time homeless count, that is often a very great barrier to someone getting transitional housing. They don't want to leave their pets behind. And Lost Our Home Foundation and other nonprofits help with that, but this is ideal where someone could have their pet with them. And I realize that congregate settings aren't really ideal during times of high COVID transmission. And knowing that Tempe's had 10% of all its cases in this past week is another indication that we need to act quickly. We need to find non-congregate settings. And we know that COVID risks are lessened if people have a place to be during the day 24/7. And Super 8 on Apache can house those facing houselessness immediately. So, but I want to say I'm going to support this tonight, but I really do want us to continue to collaborate with our existing community partners like TCAA. They're such a valued partner. We need to address houselessness and housing insecurity comprehensively all hands on deck, especially embracing the nonprofit partners that are so important to our regional approach to homelessness. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think Councilmember Kuby, she said a lot of it, and it was really good thoughts that she brought out. This is not pitching one over another in terms of how we fund and where we fund to. This is trying to, what we see on a continual battle with our emails of what are we doing, trying to do with homelessness. And we need multiple options. This is just one of a different type of option that we have put money towards. But this fight is clearly far from being over. This is literally a drop in the bucket of trying to help families out, especially in the situations that we're in right now. This is just like I said, another option for a variety of different options and services that we provide throughout the city and throughout the region. And that's the bigger play is our discussion throughout the region. Tempe cannot be the only host for homelessness. We have to share the responsibility throughout the region. And our goal is to do that. So this tonight is just a vote for this temporary shelter for a year. This is being used by COVID money. So it's no additional taxpayer money, but federal money that was sent to us to help with this situation. And I do appreciate that everyone wants to help out in their form and fashion with the TCA, with iHelp, which are fabulous facilitators for us. By no means, though, we're not trying to say this is better than that. We're just trying to act on a solution, and this is a solution that we feel comfortable with, and I'll be voting in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Right, thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a quick second and just say I appreciate the comments from my colleagues, and I think Councilmember Cubie said it best. And in regards to, there is some advantages of going this route and having that flexibility and being able to address the immediate needs currently right now, and I certainly do appreciate that. But with that said too, I also am very grateful and thankful for the comments that we received from TCA board members, and just really let them know how much we appreciate what they do, because iHelp has been such a successful program. There's been other cities that have actually taken that model and implemented it within their own cities. And, you know, that's who we are, I think, as a community. We're leaders, and we want to be able to work together and do what's right. And the expansion of iHelp, I know, is going to come maybe sooner than later. And I certainly do support that and the work that they do and the partnership that we have. I am going to support this agenda item tonight. I do believe that our staff has really done some great analysis of regards of where the immediate needs are. And this will be the best fit for us to hopefully take care of some of those individuals that need these types of services right now. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Next up, Vice Mayor Keating.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just want to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues. I think Councilmember Kuby put it very well, and as talking about the benefits of one over the other, and I think Councilmember Navarro also was very succinct when he talked about it's not about one over the other. You know, the fact of the matter is it's a growing crisis in Tempe, and you know, I've been saying for years, and as I know everyone in this council has, that we kind of need an all hands on deck approach. And I certainly appreciate, you know, the value and the partnership of Tempe Community Action Agency and what good they do in our city, not only in our city, but our surrounding cities. And of course, the iHelp program is fantastic. And I certainly appreciate, you know, the fact that their board members took the time to emails to express their concerns, because I mean, the best kind of government is one that is participated in by its citizens. But I have to agree with my colleagues that I'm going to vote in favor of this item tonight. I do appreciate staff and how they and the forward thinking in bringing this forward. I think it could be a benefit for the city for at least a year and hopefully longer than that. And we can always look at ways to increase our partnership with TCAA as we move forward. But the situation on the ground today calls for a larger scope. So thanks again, and I am done.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. echo what my council colleagues were saying, and I also want to say thank you for the emails that were sent in to us. I appreciate the people coming in and writing in and letting us know how they feel, and the board sending us letters. And Deborah, thank you so much for being here and letting us hear what you had to say also. And I also agree that this isn't the only solution that we have. Looking at this and researching this, it seems to be the best solution that we have for right now for the immediate time. I absolutely love iHelp. I have to say, I brought iHelp to my church, and it has been very successful there. I absolutely love the program. This is not going to be the end of what we do, trying to find solutions moving forward to help the people who are most vulnerable in our community right now. I will be supporting this tonight, but I will also be committing to working hard with everybody else to find other solutions to help the people who really need it right now. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. All right, so just a really quick thing here. So it seems like what we're talking about here tonight, whatever, is the ability to, supporting this item, we can still continue to support multiple strategies at the same time. I do think the motel option is a good one. I also absolutely love iHelp. Many folks know that I spent 6 years on the TCA board. It was one of the first boards I ever joined, being a resident here at the city of Tempe. I was on from 2006 to 2012, and just think the work they do is absolutely exceptional. A great executive director in Deborah Arteaga, and a very, very passionate board, whatever, that really wants to see the best when it comes to human services here in the city of Tempe. So I have a real, spot in my heart for them. And the iHelp program, many people know, was actually created right here in the city of Tempe. And so it's been so successful that it's expanded in Tempe and frankly gone to a lot of other cities and towns throughout the state of Arizona because of how successful that model is. So it's a great model, and it's something that I really would like for us to do more of. My question actually would be to the city manager, Andrew Ching. I know, one of the things that was pointed out by Deborah in her statement was that there have been times in the past where we talked about an expansion of iHelp, but it seems like we haven't exactly gotten to that finish line. And I'm just wondering, as we're kind of entering the budget process for the upcoming year, I know we probably start talking about the fiscal year 21-22 budget probably in April or so. Is there a way to make sure that we do have that conversation and try to make sure that we do include that expansion of the iHelp program so it's in very much black and white so people can see our commitment to that program?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The short answer is yes. We can certainly plan on that if that's the pleasure of council. I would also say that expansion of iHelp may, and I don't know without talking to our staff, may be included possibly as part of submissions from TCAA for the agency review process, which is another potential source of funding for expansion. But assuming that's not the case and that they're looking for other direct funding and support that the city could look at as one of the array of options we have in addressing homelessness in our community, we would be happy to work towards that as well. And I would engage with human services staff to that end.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. I would love, if you could engage with Naomi and Paul and their teams and talk about ways that we really could make sure that we can really commit to the expansion of iHelp for the upcoming fiscal year. I just really want to make sure that we can see that done. The other thing, whatever, is, and some of the council members touched upon this during their comments, homelessness is obviously a huge challenge here within the city of Tempe. Our Human Services Department does a great job, but also we work with exceptional partners like Tempe Community Action Agency that have been around here for decades. And as I think Councilmember QB talked about, they work not only in the city of Tempe, but also in Scottsdale and support other communities. So I'm thinking that in terms of, there's going to be a bigger discussion about how we all come together and talk about how we can really address this issue. I know in the upcoming year, the council committee who this is going to fall to will be council members Garland and Navarro, and I've already had some preliminary conversations with them about some additional strategies and things that we can do to really be proactive in thinking about how we tackle this challenge. And so I do think that in those conversations as they begin, we do need to make sure that TCAA is directly at the table so they're involved in the making of a lot of our human services strategy moving forward and any bigger solutions we talk about as a council pertaining to homelessness. So that's my personal pledge to them, and I hope the council members Garland and Navarro don't mind me saying that here publicly. But I just wanted to say that I really do want to make sure that they are part of that bigger conversation and that they're at the table for decision making, and that we do talk about some way to really codify a way to increase and improve the iHelp program, increase the iHelp program for the upcoming fiscal year. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out. Next up, I see Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate what you're saying about the commitment to funding iHelp in the future, I think we need to put that in the budget. And I also think that we need to have very clear communication early on with TCAA and the programs that we're implementing. I agree that this is an emergency with the homeless situation, and so I will be voting yes on it tonight. But I do want to expand our financial base out and really partner more effectively with TCAA and our human services. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Adams. All right, any other comments? Just wanted to say once again, just thank you so much to everyone for all of their work on this issue. Thank you very much to Naomi and her team for putting together this recommendation. And thank you very much, to the council as well. This is an exceptional council in terms of, wanting to make sure that we're always supporting human services and homelessness in the community. So I'm just really excited to be working on this issue and really excited to see how we can expand and redouble our efforts moving forward in the upcoming year. So thank you.
All right, if I could just jump in one more time, I also want to thank all the council communicators that came in from our residents and concerned residents out there about this program. So thank you to everybody that participated in the process.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. With that said, I will look for a motion on item 5A9.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, so moved by Councilmember Cubie, seconded by Councilmember Adams.
Yes.
All right, I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 5A9 passes 7-0. Next up is item 5C10. Let's see here. That item is to adopt a resolution to authorize the Hometown for All program to allow transfers from the general fund contingency budget to the nonprofit organization, the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing, which is known as the affiliate, to be used for the creation of affordable and workforce housing consistent with the documented objectives of the affiliate, and to offer guidelines for entities and individuals who wish to donate to the affiliate. I asked for this item to be pulled. I just wanted to say really quickly, and I'll turn my camera on here. First of all, I just wanted to say I was off the council for a 4-year period when the affiliate was actually created. So I wanted to say, just first of all, thank you very much to the council, frankly, for having the foresight to create the 501c3 that actually would house this program if this is approved this evening. This council, as Councilmember Navarro talked about a little bit earlier, has always been very supportive of affordable housing and creating more opportunities for us to make sure that everyone can live in the city of Tempe, regardless of occupation or income. And so really excited about the, being able to discuss this, but really thankful for the, for previous councils for having the foresight to create the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing. Really, it's never about, one person getting something done. It's frankly about the entire group and about our shared values as a community. I really do think, to make this brief, that this initiative will be huge and a game changer when it comes to how we can do affordable housing in this community. in speaking to some very prominent affordable housing advocates in the community after the initial proposal, they really talked about how they really believe that this would be the most aggressive housing program in the entire state, and how the city of Tempe just continues to lead in this area. So really excited about the consideration of this program. I really do think it will continue to redouble our efforts when it comes to finding affordable and attainable housing options for people of all different backgrounds. And so just really excited to consider this evening. Anyone else, any comments or questions on item 5C10? Councilmember Cubey.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for really walking the talk and allowing council to walk the talk, but showing such leadership and bringing this proposal forward and relatively quickly, by city time. We're a bureaucracy. We're not like other bureaucracies. We're more flexible, and I think we are more reactive to the conditions that we see around our city. But without your leadership, we may not have done this. So I really want to salute you, and I'll be fully supportive of this initiative.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubey. Any other council members, comments or questions? Vice Mayor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank you for your leadership on this, but I also want to thank Councilmember Arredondo Savage, who in 2016 invited me to my first working group as a council member. That was a working group that ended up creating the affiliate. So I want to thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank Councilmember Arredondo Savage on her leadership and foresight that really kind of got us, partly to where we're going to be. And I do agree with you, Mayor, that this is going to be a game changer for the city of Tempe. So I'm excited to move forward.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Absolutely. And that, seriously, very much thank you to Councilmember Arredondo Savage for your efforts on this. I mean, as I said before, I was gone from the council for a period of years, but the fact that, efforts by Councilmember Arredondo Savage, who I worked with very closely on the Valor for Eighth project, which was for our veterans housing project for women, which she was the one who brought to the city of Tempe and spearheaded. So I really loved working with her on that, and just appreciate the fact that she came up with this concept for the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing and worked with Vice Mayor Keating to get that up and running, and that the entire council supported that. So it's because of all the groundwork that was laid earlier why we're all here tonight having this conversation. So I wanted to thank her, and thank you, Vice Mayor Keating, as well. Next up, I see Councilmember Arredondo Savage's hand.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say, thanks to the Vice Mayor. He's really nice, but, it was definitely a joint effort in regards to what we were able to work on, a few years ago. And I want to say thank you to staff, because I believe it was Lavon Lammy that brought it up, and we were able to hash it out and bring forth a really solid recommendation from the whole working group. And really did help us, get this foundation situated. So when you came, it was great for all of us to get back on board and expand it to really give some clear direction moving forward. So, I appreciate the work that's been done up until this point, and that we're going to continue to do together. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Any other council members, comments or questions? Let's see, Madam Clerk, you said you also had a comment card on item 5C10.
That's affirmative, Mayor. I realize it's not a public hearing item, but it does come from Jana Lynn Granillo, and it's really short. She just writes, "Great news to see a Hometown for All initiative. Our town needs affordable housing. Thank you in advance for your support. Sincerely, Jana Lynn Granillo."
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Granillo. Really appreciate your comment. All right. All right. Hearing nothing else, I will entertain a motion on item 5C10.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Mayor Keating. Sounds like there was a second by Councilmember Garland. I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call vote here. Councilmember Navarro?
So moved.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams? Councilmember Adams?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Hi.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Cubey?
Aye.
Great. And I vote aye as well. Item 5C10 passes unanimously, 7-0. All right, next up here, we have item 6 here, which is the non-consent agenda. All items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard, but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Council members who may have a conflict of interest may abstain from voting on a matter, and the city clerk will provide the council members with the disclosure form at this time. First up, item 6A, miscellaneous items, bids, contracts, and resolutions. First item under 6C1, first item under this section is 6A1, which is to award a construction contract to Visus Engineering Construction Incorporated for the roundabout construction, Priest Drive and Grove Parkway project located at the intersection of South Priest Drive and West Grove Parkway. Council members, any comments or discussion? All right, let's see here. If there's no comments or discussion, I would look to a motion on item 6A1.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cubie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Keating. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams? And I vote aye as well. Item 6A1 passes 7-0. Next up is item 6A2, which is award a construction contract to Combs Construction Company for the roadway widening improvements, McClintock Drive to Del Rio to Broadway, Phase 1 South project located along McClintock Drive from Del Rio Drive to Broadway Road. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, if I don't hear any discussion, I'd ask for a motion on item 6A2.
So moved.
I'll
Moved by-
second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Keating, seconded by Councilmember Adams. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
An enthusiastic aye.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Enthusiastically, aye. Thank you.
Councilmember Adams?
How soon can we start?
I'll take that as an aye.
That's an aye. That's an
There you
aye.
go. I'll vote aye as well. Item 6A2 passes 7-0. Next up is item 6A3, which is to hold an initial public hearing and invite public comment on the proposed annexation of properties within Maricopa County limits and located in an area south of East Curry Road, west of North Miller Road, and north of East Gilbert Drive, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes as amended. Is staff available to make a statement on this item? And let's see, and if not, Madam Clerk, were there any comments received from the public on this item?
No comment cards for this public hearing.
Okay, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Vice Mayor Keating. Do I have a second?
Excuse me.
Second.
Excuse me, Mayor. I apologize. Judy Bauman. I don't believe a vote is necessary on this item. The requirement is a public hearing and public comment only. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I guess
Sorry, Mayor.
no problem. I thought it was that. So, all right. So I guess then we will go ahead and be done with that item then, if there's no vote taken. The next section on the non-consent agenda is ordinances and items for introduction and first hearing. These items will be read and introduced tonight, but no vote will be taken. The second hearing and vote for these items is scheduled for February 11th, 2021. First item under this section is 6B1, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to amending Tempe City Code Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 20, Section 2-365 regarding membership on the Tempe Veterans Commission. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for February 11th, 2021. Any comments received from the public, Madam Clerk?
No input received for this item, Mayor.
Okay, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion?
Move to approve.
Okay, actually, we don't need to vote for this one tonight, so.
2 for 2.
All right. All right, any other comments or discussion? All right, next item under the section is 6B2, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the dedication of right-of-way easement and certain city-owned land related to the McClintock Drive Widening Improvements Project for use as public right-of-way and authorizing the city engineer to execute a declaration memorializing such dedication and related documents. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for February 11th, 2021. Madam Clerk, any comments received from the public on this item?
No public input for this item, Mayor.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion on 6B2? All right, hearing none. Last item under the section is item 6B3, which is to introduce and hold the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending Tempe City Code, Chapter 2, Article 7, relating to the Risk Management Trust Board by amending Section 2-505 relating to members. The second and final public hearing is scheduled for February 11th, 2021. Madam Clerk, any comments received from the public regarding this item?
No public input on this item, Mayor.
Okay. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion on item 6B3? All right. Go ahead and close that section. So agenda items 6C1 and 6C2, which are scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption, were read and introduced on December 3rd, 2020. And item 6C3 was read and introduced on November 12th, 2020. Final votes on all three items will be taken tonight. First item under this section is item 6C1, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the granting of an electric underground easement to Salt River Project Agricultural Improvement and Power District over certain city-owned land identified by APN 301-47-007A and authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute an easement agreement and related documents. Madam Clerk, any comments from the public on this item?
Nothing for this item, Mayor.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, any comments or discussion? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion on item 6C1.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Something moved by Councilmember Navarro, seconded by Vice Mayor Keating. I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Cubie?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 6C1 passes 7-0. Next item under the section is item 6C2, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute development and disposition agreement, deeds, a land and improvement lease, a memorandum of lease, and additional documents with E&R Holdings LLC or city-approved nominee with respect to the project to be constructed at 300 South Ash Avenue. Said before, the first public hearing of this item was held on November 12th, 2020. Madam Clerk, any comments from the public regarding this item?
Mayor, we do have one request to speak. Mr. Philip Yates in the audience to speak on his own behalf.
All right, Mr. Yates, you are all set whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. For those who don't know who I am the chair for the Riverside Neighborhood Association. There are several things I would like to address with regard to 6C2 and 6C3, and I think I'd like to just invoke both of them into one comment here, or multiple comments. But this is a project that would take years and years to actually develop. It would be, I don't know anybody that's actually lived next to a high rise of any kind that is being built, but it is extremely loud, and there are lots and lots of problems with a community that actually has this kind of development taking place and being built. it would definitely be a problem for the people that actually live in Riverside and Sunset as well. Right now, we live in an age where we're trying to get a lot of people taken care of that are in the low-income housing sectors, and we definitely need to look at that. And I thank the council and you, Mr. Mayor Woods, that you have addressed these kinds of problems for our city. It is it's very problematic. We have the homeless people that go to our park, and our residents, they go and they help with and churches will go to help feed the homeless, and it's increasing day by day, week by week. But going forward, this is, keep in mind, this is a 18-story hotel and a 17-story office tower. First off, we already have Mission Palms. That is a very well-known downtown hotel, and it is never filled to capacity, ever filled to capacity. And having an 18-story hotel located right where this is being proposed is just, it doesn't make any sense to have something of that magnitude there. And with regard to the 17-story office tower, we already have a lot of offices that are in like the State Farm building that are not even being used at this point, and we don't see any. I don't see any kind of issue with that. That it being it's definitely not going to fill up, at least not for a long time. There is, of course, now this is going to my own personal background. My family moved in the 1980s of Old Town Square, where it is now located. Is right next to where this is being proposed. It's 5 houses. They were built in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and this would impact that significance to our history considerably. It's just really, it's almost insulting to have something of this magnitude put right next to those houses.
Mr. Yates, really quick, I was going to say your 3 minutes is up, but I'm going to go ahead and give you another minute to keep going. So.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
The depot itself is encased by an 8-story tandem parking garage, and you can't even see it from Ash Avenue. It's not going to be a significant reflection of our city by Ash Avenue, as has been the old town square right next to where this is being proposed. But also it is, it doesn't have any solar panels on it, and it's going to reflect a lot of light, and it doesn't fit the area. Of course, it's going to increase a lot of street problems with a lot more parking issues and just driving up and down the streets for decades. It will change the area for its time forever. It will change what the city has become today for future generations, and that is really tragic. And with that, I'll close unless anybody else has questions for me.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Yates. Really appreciate it. Anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Yates? All right, seeing no hands, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to come out tonight. Let's see, Madam Clerk, any other comments on this item?
None for this item, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to turn to the applicant for a presentation. I believe I've got Manjula Vaz, Barry Shanahan, and John Tran.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. For your record, Manjula Vaz, Gamage and Burnham. I believe this is the development agreement item, so I'm happy to answer any questions on the development agreement, or Alex Smith may want to. I have a presentation for 6C3 where I could talk a little bit about Mr. Yates' questions related to the view of the depot, however you'd like to proceed. Or I can talk about the development agreement if you'd like.
What's the pleasure of council? Would people like a full presentation or just go straight to the development agreement?
I'm straight. The development agreement's fine with me, Mayor.
Agreement.
Okay.
But
All right, development agreement it is. Ms. Voss?
So I don't have any comments. What I do want to say about the development agreement, I want to thank Alex and John for all their help. What I think you have heard from, and I'll talk about it in the zoning, but in terms of the development agreement, as members of the council know, and I guess I'm sorry, Mayor, for the record, Manjula Vaz, law firm of Gamage and Burnham, 2 North Central, Phoenix, 85004. As members of the council know, we have structured this agreement very similar to the agreement that the council and the community have seen related to 100 Mill. So as you know, right now the depot does not have any protection in terms of historic preservation. So the plan, the development agreement gives, the developer has agreed to, we will give a facade easement on the depot. We will also be going through the city's historic preservation process, development agreement. In part of the development agreement, the developer will also be preserving and also doing rehabilitation of the depot. So what we will be doing, similar to the Hayden House, is removing kind of the restaurant portion around the depot and then bringing the Tempe depot back to its original state, which I will show you very quickly here in our next presentation. And then we have provided protection around it, and working with John Southard and the HPC, we put together a historic preservation plan. In addition, the development agreement has easements for a pedestrian plaza that's immediately west of the depot, and a pedestrian easement that goes from depot to Ash, which I will show you as part of our presentation. But in exchange for that, obviously the developer is getting an incentive for the preservation, rehabilitation of the building. But it's a structure and an agreement that's worked very well at 100 Mill. It's worked very well to preserve the Hayden House, and we look forward to doing it at Depot. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or I believe Alex can answer questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Voss. Any members of council, any comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cubie.
Yeah, just to salute Alex and John Southard on that original 100 Mill Hayden House agreement, because it really protected the building. And if we hadn't had that protection, who knows what the construction would have done to it. And it provided model language for this development, which was greatly appreciated. And I want to just thank all the work that Alex and John put into that, as well as Manjula here, but just in the 100 Mill model template. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Any other council members, comments or questions? All right, I don't hear any. Let's see here. All right. The most important, the thing I see here, whatever that I really do like, is the fact that, looking at the train depot, that previously, like we talked about, was not an item that was going to be protected by historic preservation. And one of the things that I really like is the fact that we're talking about continuing to preserve some of our historic Tempe landmarks. And this will provide an opportunity to do that. I also think one of the good things is, too, the way this deal is structured, we end up becoming a sort of a partner with the developer on the project, and from the standpoint that the land, some of the land under it still remains public. And so if there are changes that have to come forward at a later date, those will then be run by our city staff as well as go through an additional public process. So I do believe there are additional protections built in here that are important, not just for the city, but frankly to the residents and to the surrounding neighborhoods. So those are a couple of things that I actually really like about this project, along with it adding some other kind of public space on the on the bottom of the building, whatever, that the public will be able to use, and retail that will also be readily accessible to the surrounding neighborhoods and probably those who also live near the downtown. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I kind of pointed out some of those things that I actually do think that are real positives about the project. Anyone else? Any comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Adams.
Yes, thank you. I completely agree with you. I'm so happy that we're going to be able to save the depot and still have an amazing project. And I'm supporting this project this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Anyone else? Comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, just
Yes,
a word
Councilmember
about
Kuby.
that. I was confused about what we talk about now versus in the next item, but just also want to mention our Historic Preservation Commission and the Historic Preservation Foundation for their fundamental work in all of this. We really rely on the advice of our residents, many of whom are expert in historic preservation. So thank you to them.
Absolutely. No, really, it's a great point, Councilmember Kuby. I think it's so critical that we do work with our historic preservation community when looking to save, the historical landmarks that make Tempe what it is. Yes, Vice Mayor Keating.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of Councilmember Kuby's comments. Historic preservation is something that's very important, I know, to this entire council and certainly to me and the rest of us. And Tempe has long been inhabited well before it was called Tempe, as we discussed earlier. So it's so important that we keep moving forward, but we don't forget where we came from, kind of mentality I think we should keep. And so I'm very pleased that Ms. Foz and her client are going to preserve the depot while still meeting the demands of our modern society. So I will be supporting this project, and I'm very grateful that we are still keeping a piece of old Tempe incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Keating. Any other council members, comments or questions? All right, hearing none, the chair would look for a motion on item 6C3.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Garland, seconded by Councilmember Adams. I will take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuby?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage?
Aye.
Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 6C3 passes 7-0.
Mayor, this is the clerk. That was item 6C2.
62. Ooh, sorry about that. I don't know how I skipped in my brain. So item 6C2 passes 7-0. The next item is item 6C3. Hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a planned area development overlay and a development plan review consisting of a 17-story office tower, an 18-story hotel tower with ground floor retail, and a 7-level above-grade parking structure, including the preservation and rehabilitation of an existing train depot structure within approximately 993,000 square feet of building area for Tempe Depot located at 300 South Ash Avenue. The applicant is E&R Holdings. All right, is the applicant still available to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for your record, Manjula Voss, law firm of Gamage and Burnham. If I can do this, I'm going to share a presentation with you, which I can talk through some of, hopefully this works. Can you see this presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I am here tonight on behalf of E&R Holdings, which is a company affiliated with Red Development. I've given a fairly lengthy presentation in November, as you mentioned during our first hearing. So I will not go through the whole presentation. I just want to hit some high points just for the audience and then respond to a couple of Mr. Yates' comments related to view corridors. As you may know, and I think we talked about, Red Development, who is affiliated with ENR Holdings, is a wholly integrated, partly held commercial real estate company. They build a lot of high quality mixed use developments. Some signature projects, which you know about, is Cityscape in downtown Phoenix, which I think you, the council is well acquainted with, along with Block 23, which has the city's first grocery store, the Fry's grocery store. Downtown Phoenix is one of the first blocks, named after one of the first Phoenix townships, Block 23. In addition, they have built the Union in Dallas, which is also anchored by a Tom Thumb grocery store, another mixed-use development, and are currently building a mixed-use development at 44th and Camelback, which is offices and the training facilities for the Mercury and the Suns, and has a hotel that's being developed by Sam Fox. So you can see the type of quality development that Red does, and that we'll be bringing to the Tempe Depot project. This is the site, which we know. Just briefly, I think Mr. Yates mentioned briefly, but I think we've talked about just in terms of the height of this project is similar to the kind of general heights in downtown, kind of certainly in the downtown core. Here's the depot location, which I think we're all familiar with. A little bit about the depot as we talk about corridors, and this is kind of just some pictures, as you can see, the west side of the depot that we're going to try to bring back to life. And what has complicated the site a little bit, as you can see, is it's two triangles within a larger triangle, and the depot itself sits in the middle of the triangle along the western edge. So we've had to be creative with the structure and trying to make sure that depot is preserved, plus it had some breathing. And I think it was Vice Mayor Keating, who thanked the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Historic Preservation Foundation, along with John and Alex, have been very integral and very helpful in thinking through kind of how this works. I don't talk about it, but we've been to the HPC a couple of times, and we've been talking to John Southard and Alex for over 2 years. They've given us lots of feedback and direction as to working both with the depot and how the project works. So I really want to compliment both this council and its staff, and certainly the HPC and the Historic Preservation Foundation. We appreciate all the time they took with us, especially with HPC over the last year during COVID. We've all been meeting virtually, but they've been really helpful. Anyway, so just want to say that. But in terms of kind of the goal of the project, the first goal has been the preservation and the rehabilitation of the train depot in 1924. And the project itself will be called Tempe Depot. And I was talking to Darlene Justice earlier today and telling her that one of our primary goals is to make the Tempe Depot a centerpiece of the project. And, you know, the location makes it a little hard because it's on the western edge, but we've tried to, like, the whole project is centered so you kind of flow into the site to see the depot. And you can see a little bit on the bottom slide, which I'll show you a bigger slide, but when you're on Ash, you will have a view corridor to see the depot. This is the back side of the depot. Obviously the west side is the front side, but we also have, as Mr. Yates said, a 17-story office tower, an 18-story office tower, and I'll show you the plaza. We do have a Hilton, which is that will be the brand of the hotel. But just briefly, as Mr. Yates was talking about, so what we do have, and I think the mayor mentioned, we have a large kind of open plaza here that is 22,000 square feet, and the plan is to activate this plaza, along with we have retail. We have a large restaurant here, more retail and hotels, so that Ash is activated with uses, retail, outdoor entertainment, and then you have a plaza to bring people towards the Tempe Depot. And for those of you who have been to Cityscape, you know how active Red is with some of their spaces. You know, during the winter months, they had, if you see that space that's between the buildings, they have ice skating rinks along Central Avenue. They also have events, you know, either markets, they have dining, they have the wine, I can't remember what it's called, but they have a wine event between the buildings, which they have a lot of events at Cityscape, and that's the kind of activity we're going to bring to this plaza. In addition to, once the kind of the depot structure is back together, the intent is to make the depot alive and to have people interact with the depot. Not only is just to know what it is, but we will have, whether we have some sort of retail and restaurant in there, so you will interact with it. Eventually, one day, it may end up being a portion for the commuter rail. And to that end, the city of Tempe will have an easement over here so that they, will have space for the future commuter rail equipment. And then we have an easement that obviously people can get on, use the depot structure. We hope to make a working train depot again. And then there will be a pedestrian easement that goes from the depot through the plaza to Ash. And then they can catch a streetcar, they can go downtown. The bus stop is here. So it's very much trying to make it a very active working space. And then I just wanted to picture of the train depot. I want to pause here for a second to show you a little bit of Ash, the activity, and you can see just both the restaurants activity eating along Ash, along with the train depot. I have been talking to Councilwoman Arredondo Savage a little, and we've talked a little bit about we may make some minor design modifications here to try to add a little bit. She wanted a little bit of more design creativity, so we may change very minor these colors a little bit to try to make some of this pop a little bit. I talked to Ron Levesque earlier today, so we may make just a couple of minor changes, but this will be the look, and then we'll have a big art piece here. And then, as you can see from Ash, and you can see standing here, there is a view corridor that comes from Ash, and you can see to the depot. And what we're looking for is to activate this space and to bring people into the depot. We will have signage. There will be, similar to the way you see 100 Mill. We're going to have obviously there'll be information inside the depot about the history of the train depot, as you all have spoken about during the development agreement time. But the goal of this project, and I think Councilman Kuby said it, is to celebrate the train depot, build a very exciting mixed-use project, but make sure that we respect and really celebrate the train depot. So with that, Mayor and Council, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Voss. Let's see, really quickly here, Madam Clerk, I believe you had a card before we go to council comments?
Yes, I do, Mayor. I have a comment card to be read into the record from Merrill Darcy, resident of Tempe. Merrill writes, I am concerned that the continuous use of heavy truck traffic necessary for this project will destroy the new Rio Salado roundabout and adjacent Ash Avenue, new streetcar surfaces, and infrastructure. These streets were not designed nor can support these kinds of heavy loads and extreme use. No one is accountable for this destruction, and no one is offering any remediation in repairing the damages. Deliveries of lengthy and heavy materials, including steel girders, numerous concrete deliveries, dirt removal from excavation, and tower crane implements will not negotiate the curve around Rio Salado and the new roundabout. Deliveries of this sort have to be transported either through 5th Street neighborhoods, East Rio Salado, or Ash Avenue. Again, these streets cannot handle the weights of constant use of overweight loads. Perhaps a solution for the developer is to install a concrete batch plant or utilize the Union Pacific Railroad siding for large deliveries. The resulting conditions of this deteriorated road surfaces of East 7th Street, West 1st Street, and Farmer Avenue will attest to this, caused by lengthy and numerous construction activities. And that's it, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Carla. Councilmember Kuby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And maybe somebody could speak to that issue on staff. I know that we just recently redesigned the street, and so I knew this project has been in the planning for 2 years, so I imagine it was done in planning with that development, but it would probably be good to hear from staff to answer the residents' concerns. But I just wanted to ask Manjula 2 things. One is, when last we met, I had spoken about perhaps there might be excessive parking here, and considering that this is a TOD, transportation-oriented development, and it is so close to the light rail, and I would like to see or ask if you had any progress on that request.
Councilwoman Kuby, as we've talked about, I appreciate your comment. I mean, the project itself is designed so that in the future we can use the garage to expand the hotel for the back of the hotel, and expand the hotel and use the garage for other spaces. For the moment, this project has less parking than the other office buildings around, and we've tried, but we're probably as low as we can go within the market. And I appreciate your comments, and as you know, I'm always working to try to do what I can, but I think we've gone as far as we can.
Thank you. I always need to ask. The other thing is I had spoken with Phil Yates today and had a long conversation. And one of the things he asked about was whether there could be some wayfinding or some signage at the front of the development so that people who might not see the depot, since it is sort of tucked away, might be aware that it's there and its significance. So are there any plans to have signage that might be place finding, wayfinding, and that mark this historic spot?
Of course, yeah, yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Kuby, of course. So is this, we are still working on our sign package, and our sign package will come a little later in the process, but we intend to, as I mentioned, the project is called Tempe Depot. If you can see my cursor, there will be monument signage here along Ash that would have, certainly a monument sign that say Tempe Depot, and we certainly will have wayfinding signs within the plaza, probably, around this area that will show you exactly where you're going to the depot, not only because we want people to go to the depot, but they're also going to be retail and restaurant there, and we're trying to, get people in, drive traffic, and make sure that this is an active area. In addition, so there will certainly be wayfinding here along Ash to make sure that people understand and can appreciate the depot. And I think as you start to see it come back to life, you'll have more and more people who will seek it out. But yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Manjula. Especially thank you for taking a site that had no protections and protecting it as you did, and doing it such a thoroughly professional way, engaging our residents and Historic Preservation Officer John Southard and Alex. Thank you so much for leading the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kuby. Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor, and Manjula, thanks to you and the team and our city staff really kind of through working through this. I mean, this is really monumental, I think, for the city of Tempe. And I know as sad as we are to see Macayos go, but the ability for you to be able to proactively, without even being mandated to by any means, to hold on to the integrity of the depot is really pretty dang remarkable. So for us to be able to celebrate that in the years to come is much appreciated. And the idea of activating that area, like you see that picture there, and I think what can be going on down there, and to get people activated just off of Mill Avenue too. So it is really truly the downtown area. I think that's really cool and going to be very exciting. I love the idea of the big art pictures. I know Mayor Woods is probably kind of laughing to himself right now as I'm saying these things, because as we have definitely been on different sides when it comes to larger projects in the city of Tempe, and maybe I've seen the light a little bit more, Mayor, I don't know. But, I think this could be a really good complement to downtown. And the fact I know you mentioned, and I understand Councilmember Kuby's concerns about parking too, but one thing that I think we've been talking about is when you have parking structures, about maybe the ability to convert them in the future into something different or an expansion of the development. And if that's something that's incorporated here, I certainly do support that. I think that's great. And I do appreciate you just addressing the best possible type of art or creativity to cover up those parking structure pieces too. So I thank you for looking into that, to continue to work on that, working with Brian to figure out what that might look like. Like I said, I know this is going to be a really iconic development, and we definitely all want it to be the best that it could be. And I do appreciate the comments from the residents around that, surrounding that, regarding traffic and concerns about ruining the roads with the large trucks. So hopefully our staff can address that. I think that's really important. To make sure that we are taking care of the assets that we currently already have, even though that might not be an intentional type of thing, but I just think it's something that we need to be cautious of. So I certainly appreciate your journey to get here, and we'll certainly be supporting the project tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. I want to go to Councilmember Garland in a second, but I want to say I really completely concur with what Councilmember Arredondo Savage said, and I also want to publicly say I love you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. You know that, and I miss all those conversations we used to have all the time. So I'm just glad to be back working with you. Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. I just love the love fest we're having here on our council meeting tonight. I wanted to say, I had mentioned the last time that Manjula did this presentation at the council meeting that I love this project. It hasn't changed. I still love this project. I love the idea of protecting our historic building, that the depot historic preservation is really important, like Randy said to all of us. So I really appreciate what you're doing. I love the artwork, and I just want to put another plug in there to possibly use some local artists or local native artists to do some type of artwork on there that would reflect the people that were here first. It would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Any other council members, comments or questions from Angela? Councilmember Cubie.
Oh, I just wanted to support what Councilmember Garland said. We just passed that resolution and we have a commitment to follow through on being stewards and using that resolution language in our decision making. And I think I would love to see a native art integrated into the project.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. Anyone else from council? Any comments or questions for Ms. Vaz? Let's see. I see Ryan Levesque.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Ryan Levesque, Deputy Director in the Planning Division. To respond to the public comments about construction activity, as part of the permit process for building safety review, they are required to apply for a hall permit, which identifies the route and travel ways to help mitigate any construction activity that occurs off the site. Once we get near to closeout period of the construction of the project, which is where the developer looks to attain a certificate of occupancy for the project, there'll be a requirement with the building inspectors to inspect the construction activity and the haul routes to see and determine if improvements or repairs to the streets need to be made. And it's at that time that we assess the developer to make any necessary repairs that may have occurred in the street. Happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate all the clarification on that. Anyone have any comments or questions for Ryan? All right, hearing none. Any other comments in general or questions from council? All right, Ms. Voss, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, thank you very much. And some of you I haven't seen. Happy New Year.
Thanks. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Hearing no additional comments or questions, I would look for a motion on item 6C3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Keating, seconded by Councilmember Garland. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro. I think I heard an aye there. Councilmember Cubie.
Aye.
Councilmember Garland.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Keating.
Yes.
Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Aye.
Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item 6C3 passes 7-0. All right, next up, item number 7 here, current events, council announcements, and future agenda items. I'm going to call on council members for their comments here. Let's go with Councilmember Navarro.
Mayor, have none right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Garland.
No announcements, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Arredondo Savage.
Hey, Mayor, thank you. Just a couple really quick here. I think I have like 17. So if we could pull up those slides, it'd be great.
Go for it.
Hey, I just want to remind everybody, the Veterans Commission is working to just get some information from our local veterans to see how they can best serve and make sure that we have the right resources available for you. So if you are a veteran or you know a veteran, please send them to take the survey. It's going to be really important to make sure that we're allocating our resources where they need to be and that we just are recognizing all of our veterans within our community. So it actually ends on the 18th, so there's a few more days. So if you know anybody, please make sure you forward them the information so they too can take the survey. So thank you for the Veterans Commission for taking this on and learning a little bit more about our community. It's a great idea. And secondly, I just want to remind people, I know one thing we talked about is financial independence, but we're actually having a Tempe virtual job fair coming up really soon. I guess this slide doesn't really have all the information on it. If you go online through the economic development part of our partnerships, that'll be really great. They have definitely done a lot of really good things. It is January 26th at 9 a.m. And we already have like 12 quality employers that are going to be there, from Medtronic, Carvana, State Farm, Honeywell, Viastat, Bank of the West, and many, many more. So thank you to those business partners that are ready to actually hire people, possibly right there or within 30 days from that. So we know employment is very important to individuals and families. So I would say please spread the word. If you know of anybody that's looking for a job or maybe wants a different type of work, please check out the City of Tempe Tempe virtual job fairs. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Arredondo Savage. Next up, Vice Mayor Keating.
Nothing from me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have some announcements this evening. My first one is I am happy to announce that my next community outreach event for Join Jennifer is in the zip code of 85281, and that will be held on Wednesday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. on Cisco WebEx. So I do these every other month, so I would really encourage everyone to jump on and join us. We also have wonderful special guests for this Join Jennifer. We're going to have the incredible economic developer, or director, I should say, Donna Kennedy, and she will be giving an update on the North Tempe County Island and upcoming projects. Then we will have the amazing city volunteer, Kim Gaffney Loza, who also serves as a commissioner on our Desert Conservation Commission. And Kim's going to be talking about the Desert Conservation Commission upcoming goals and objectives. Next, we'll have, we want everyone in the city is welcome to attend, as we also discuss citywide information on my Join Jennifer. So I just would encourage everyone to attend, and all you have to do is go to tempe.gov// Adams, or you can email my council aide is Alex, ALEX _Chin, CHIN at tempe.gov, and he will get you all set up. My second announcement today is that, or tonight, is Zero Waste Day is coming up on Saturday, January 30th from 7 in the morning to 1 p.m. at the Fire Training Center, which is located at 1340 East University. And to find out more information about that, please visit tempe.gov/smart and click on the Zero Waste icon for a list of all the items you can drop off. Thanks. I look forward to meeting you in several weeks for my Join Jennifer. And have a great day and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. And Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have some slides that are popping up. And here they are. So yeah, there's a lot of sadness these days, and so sorry to lose our former police chief and also Sergeant Chuck. But Kelly Bender passed away in December, and many of you know him from his work about homelessness, and he was the senior pastor of Tempe's First United Methodist Church. He took that position, came out of retirement to take that position, and we all know how the First UMC is so dedicated to relief for a houseless population in Tempe. So it was just so sad to hear about his passing in December. He was a great man, and let's all say a prayer for his family, who must be in such pain right now. Next. So Connecting with QB is January 27th at 6 p.m. virtual, of course. And my very special guest, Councilmember Jennifer Adams, she and I will be co-chairing the Sustainable and Livable Communities Committee. So we thought it was a good time to get some feedback from our residents about what we should be focusing on in our work plan with the committee. We're going to feature Dr. Braden Kay, who's Tempe's Sustainability Director, and hopefully we'll have a very good discussion. You can sign up there at tempe.gov/events. And lastly, we're all hearing about vaccinations, and getting vaccine appointments can be challenging. on the website, but there was a recent announcement that Arizonans over 65 will get access to the coronavirus vaccines earlier than thought. So beginning Tuesday at 9 a.m., if you're over the age of 65, you can apply to get a vaccine, and there'll be more sites set up for that. I don't think you'll have to travel so far to Glendale, but there'll be additional sites that are opening up. But in any case, go to podvaccine.azdhs.gov. It's the Arizona Department of Health Services site, and that's your starting point for applying for a vaccine, for applying for a time. And be patient. And I want to thank so much Alex Chin, who's helped some residents go through this process, but you have to go to each individual date and click and hope that appointments will appear. So it can take some time, but be patient. And hopefully we'll get us all vaccinated in the first 6 months of this year, but we've had a good head start after some initial slow rollout of the vaccines. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And also see you all tomorrow at the MLK Diversity Awards presentations.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie. I don't have any announcements this evening, so I'm going to go on to item 8, public appearances. Madam Clerk, I know we have some, maybe I think one speaker, but I think you also have some additional cards potentially.
Mayor, I do have one card remaining, but I also have that same person in the audience. I was going to see if he wanted to speak for himself, Gary Kleeman.
Yes, I would like to speak.
Okay, yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm addressing you tonight on the topic of golf rules during the current spike in the COVID pandemic. I appreciate the comments this evening of City Manager Andrew Ching about the city's actions regarding COVID. With 1,500 new cases this past week, this is a very important matter. I received an email from the City of Tempe on December 28th entitled, Tempe announces changes to aquatics, special events, and Westside Multi-Generational Center due to rising cases. The first paragraph read, since the beginning of the pandemic, the City of Tempe has made public health its top priority, using science and data to drive all decisions. COVID-19 cases continue to rise at alarming rates, and all 3 state benchmarks are now in red, which is considered substantial spread. To help mitigate the spread, changes to some city offerings will go into effect beginning January 4th. Noticeably absent from this list of city-run facilities were the 2 golf courses run by the city, Ken McDonald and Rolling Hills. I'm speaking to you tonight to request that the city immediately return these courses to the rules in place during the last COVID spike in the spring and summer. On December 16th, I sent an email to the mayor and the council in which I said, my family and I have been Tempe residents since 1979. We love this city and the many amenities that are provided for our citizens. One of the things that we especially enjoy is playing golf at Ken McDonald and Rolling Hills golf courses. I'm writing and I'm talking to you tonight to express my concerns over how the golf courses are currently handling the coronavirus pandemic, just as cases are surging and the winter and spring are looking very bleak for our city, our state, and our nation. Golf is one of those few activities that can be enjoyed while socially distancing. When the pandemic was in its first surge last spring and summer, the golf course management, I believe under the direction of the Parks and Recreation Board and you, the City Council, took prudent steps to ensure the safety of staff and visitors to the golf courses. Flag sticks were not to be touched or removed, ball washers were shut down, rakes were removed from the sand traps, masks were required in all indoor spaces and recommended whenever social distancing could not be maintained, and golf carts were limited to only 1 person and less than an immediate family member per cart. Since the number of golf carts were limited, this limited the number of players that could be on the course at one time. Then this fall, inexplicably, the rules changed. Restrictions were relaxed as the virus seemed to be on the decline. Golf course now required 2 people. Paying extra or insisting on being a single rider in a cart was not an option. It is impossible to socially distance while riding with another person in a golf cart. Then the current surge arrived. We're in a crisis mode with this coronavirus, but golf course management refuses to consider allowing only 1 person to a golf cart. I cannot in good conscience share a golf cart with someone other than my wife. I care too much about them and I care too much about myself to risk that possible exposure. At 75 years of age, I could walk 9 holes, but I need a cart to play 18. I'm asking you, the Tempe City Council, to please reinstate the rules of this past summer. Golf courts should be limited to 1 person unless a family member. I do understand the financial implications of this policy. If it is necessary to raise the cost of a round of golf to be safe during this pandemic, then so be it. The most important thing is the health and safety of all. I'm hopeful that you will take immediate action to deal with this urgent issue. The virus is getting worse. A vaccine is just starting to be deployed, and maybe we can return to something akin to normal next fall. But now, action is needed. Action is needed now, and I request that you please take some action. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. All right, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, we also have Matt Schmel, who's here to speak for several neighbors, and they've allotted some time to him, and you have afforded him a 15-minute time frame, but I'm going to read the neighbors into the record.
Okay,
I've afforded him the time.
Actually, before you do that, Madam Clerk, I just want to do one quick thing, actually, if this is okay. Madam City Attorney, just for anyone who's sort of watching, can you kind of talk about what this item is about that I know that Mr. Schmel is going to speak about, just so we have a general sense and so the public who's watching this kind of understands the context?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and thank you to Mr. Schmel and the residents who are coming forward this evening. So just for public awareness, very briefly, several residents have raised questions with regard to a wall that was built over a bridle path that is located in the Shady Lanes Estates neighborhood in South Tempe. City staff has looked into the issue, and we have found no indication that the particular bridle path in the Shady Lanes Estates neighborhood is recorded as a public easement. We have been in contact with the Homeowners Association and understand that the wall was approved by their architectural committee. So that's just a very brief background to make the public aware of the issue and the fact that the city has spent some time looking into it, and we thank staff and engineering and community development for their time on this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Okay, if Madam Clerk, do you want to go ahead and read the names into the record who Mr. Schmel is going to be speaking for?
Certainly. He's speaking for himself, Suzanne Barnett Scott, Patty Lines, Krista Zamora, Vicki Brown, Shelley Shawwecker, and Chris Cruft. And we also did discuss the open meeting law restrictions on council, but with that, I'll give him the microphone if he's ready to go.
All right, Mr. Schmel, you are all set to go.
I am ready. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I will transmit a copy of this statement to the Tempe City Clerk for the record. And additionally, we'll have a petition in support of our position that we will be transmitting to the Tempe City Clerk electronically. Mayor Woods, Vice Mayor Keating, council members Adams, Arredondo, Savage, Garland, Kuby, and Navarro. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Schmel, and I am speaking on behalf of the residents of South Tempe who live in the Buena Vista Ranchos, Calle de Caballos, and Sunburst Farms neighborhoods. As you know, these neighborhoods are Tempe's equestrian neighborhoods and have been such since 1961 when Calle de Caballos was approved. All of these neighborhoods have a unique feature in that they have the only bridle path system in Tempe running throughout them. And yet, is Tempe approved and required, the system is under attack, while the city of Tempe relies on an unelected official, the city attorney, for unreliable advice. We are specifically concerned with an unauthorized easement encroachment of 328 feet of bridle path easement by the homeowner of 1710 East Carver Road, Tempe, a home in the Shady Lane Estates subdivision. This saga started in October of 2019 when the homeowner's registered surveyor communicated an email with the City of Tempe's Community Development Department asking for Tempe to extinguish the easement behind 1710 East Carver Road. Email communications continued back and forth with Tempe reiterating that Tempe had no authority to extinguish the easement, and culminated with Ryan Levesque, the Tempe Deputy Community Development Director for Planning, responding in a March 2020 email to the surveyor and homeowner, in which Mr. Levesque explicitly stated, "You are seeking to abandon an easement, but because the city required the easement at the time of the zoning action, condition of approval, the reversal of a condition would require going through the very same process that the condition was placed on the property, an ordinance through a public hearing." That is a quote from his email. The homeowner was copied on these emails. Thus, the homeowner and the registered surveyor were informed in black and white and absolutely knew this bridle path easement was a stipulated requirement for Shady Lane Estates and the 1710 East Carver Road property. And yet, 5 months later in August, the homeowner tore the existing property wall down and built a new wall 10 feet into the bridle path and running for a distance of approximately 328 feet, which encompassed the legally required bridle path easement that is part of the 1710 East Carver Road property. Your constituents in the surrounding neighborhoods reached out to the City of Tempe staff and were told in multiple emails that the city had no standing and wouldn't enforce this easement. This message was reiterated by the city attorney, Judy Bauman, during a recorded video conference that included council members Garland and Adams and Deputy Director Levesque. In that video conference, the city attorney stated that this was a private easement and the city had no authority or standing to enforce the encroached easement. The neighborhoods disagree with this position and believe that this is in fact a Tempe public bridle path, one of the very few in Tempe. Our position is supported by the fact that per the stipulations, no home in the Shady Lane Estates is allowed a gate in their back fences and thus cannot even access any bridle path. Over the months since then, we have continued our research and discovered the string of 1995 correspondence between the Tempe Community Development Department and the Shady Lane Estates developer. 3 times the Shady Lane Estates development was presented to the Tempe City Council before the development was approved. And that approval carried explicit stipulations as a condition of approval. These stipulations specifically called out the bridle path easements on the west end of Shady Lane Estates, and those stipulations were directly copied over to the Shady Lane Estates plat map as required stipulations in the plat. This correspondence was presented to the City Council in November. When no response was forthcoming, we persisted and then met with Council members Kuby and Garland on December 16th, where we were told that the city attorney told them that Tempe does not enforce the conditions on the plat maps. This statement is echoed in the email thread between the city attorney and Council member Kuby on December 16th, in which the city attorney wrote, "Hi, Lauren. Good morning. Yes, that document is part of the community development file and was reviewed by a CD staff in our office. The recorded plat is the final document listing conditions and what was satisfied by the developer prior to recording. For consistency, we have recommended that we let Matt know that the city is not in a position to initiate litigation, but will fully cooperate with all parties should suit be filed." Of note in this email thread is that misinformation is being disseminated internally to the city, as reflected when Council member Kuby also wrote, "I read through all the memos, and I understand that the western path is not the same as the one with conditions," end quote. And the email string further had Councilmember Kuby asking the city attorney, "You mentioned last time we spoke about this that Matt was in error and the city approved bridle path easement was a different easement entirely. Is that right?" The city attorney never directly answered these email questions and let the misinformation stand. To be clear, the bridle path easements reflected in the 1995 Shady Lane Estates Community Development Correspondence stipulations and reflected in the recorded plat map are exactly what is at issue here. In addition to the above, we also researched and discovered that a City of Tempe 12-inch water main runs down this bridle path. And contrary to the city, to the City of Tempe design requirements, The size of the water main easements does not meet the width requirements and may in fact be encroached upon by the offending wall. Furthermore, we have learned that the Tempe City Code, Part 4 states, "The owner or owners association shall maintain the development and property in conformance with the plans approved by the city. Any deterioration shall be considered a violation of this code and any applicable ordinances. Landscape features, lighting, walls, screening devices, or other features installed in conformance with Part 4 of this code shall not be modified or removed without prior approval by the Community Development Director or designee. The removal or destruction of such features without prior approval by the Community Development Director or designee shall constitute a violation of this code." And as I've already read to you, Deputy Director Levesque stated in no uncertain terms that the bridle path easement could not be extinguished except by action of the Tempe City Council. The bridle path easement behind 1710 East Carver Road of Shady Lanes Estates was and is a stipulation to the existence of Shady Lane Estates. Looking at the above issues, what is apparent is the lack of enforcement of a public bridle path that has existed far before Tempe annexed this area, the lack of enforcement of the bridle path easement stipulations in the Tempe Community Development Correspondence of 1995, the lack of enforcement of the bridle path stipulations on the approved and recorded plat map for Shady Lane Estates, the failure to follow engineering design requirements, and the failure to enforce the code violations reflected in the Tempe City Code. All these point to something in the staff offices of the City of Tempe resistant to following the rules in our Tempe City Codes. We are a nation of laws. This quote is widely credited to the second president of the nation, John Adams. It is probably one of the most used quotes historically, particularly by our elected leaders and the courts. President Ford said it, President Obama said it, President Trump said it, President-elect Biden said it. The required oath of office for Tempe officials and employees states, "I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and the charter, codes, and ordinances of the City of Tempe, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office according to the best of my ability, so help me God, or so I do affirm." Mayor Woods, Vice Mayor Keating, council members Adams, Arredondo Savage, Garland, Kuby, and Navarro. The evidence is clear that this encroaching wall on the bridle path is a knowing and willful violation of the legal stipulations on the plat map and the laws enumerated in the Tempe City Code. An old but true statement in organizations, particularly concerning compliance to code and requirements, is that the tone is set at the top one way or the other. The Tempe City staff is in need of your direction and leadership to have this wall torn down and the required bridle path restored. I ask each of you now, will you honor your oath in the leadership of the City of Tempe and set that tone? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmill. Really appreciate it. Let's see, any members of council, any comments or questions for Mr. Schmill?
This
Let's
is
see,
Councilmember.
Kuby.
Oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Kuby and then Councilmember Adams.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
Councilmember Adams, will you go first? Excuse me. You
Sure.
can go first.
Obviously, I have great concerns about this situation and what Matt has brought up tonight. And I guess I would like to hear from our city attorney some information and see if we can get some clarification and if we need to revamp things, which it sounds like Matt made a great case for, then I think we need to relook at the situation moving forward. and correct what's happened if in fact we are out of code. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. And just a really quick thing too, Madam Clerk, this item, Matt's item was agendized, so we are allowed to comment, correct?
Matt's item was not agendized. The deadline was 2 weeks ago, so it's a unscheduled appearance, and even at that, you're still restricted by open meeting law, even when it is scheduled.
So we're not allowed to comment.
I'll defer to Judy on that one.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So Arizona's open meeting law requires that an item be placed on an agenda for discussion and consideration by the council. This particular item was not on the regular council meeting agenda for your consideration this evening. So we can certainly, as staff, offer to work with Matt and his fellow residents, but the open meeting law would restrict your comments this evening.
Okay, then we'll probably, thank you, Madam City Attorney, Madam Clerk. Then we'll probably have to cut off the comments at this point. I apologize, Councilmember Adams. I thought this was agendized, so my apologies.
Me too. Can we move to agendaize it in the future? Easy for me to say. Can we be able to comment then in the future if we do that, Mayor Woods?
Yeah, I'll look to the City Attorney actually on that question.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. If this item or a related item is on a council agenda, whether it's work study session or a regular council meeting agenda, then council certainly would be able to comment at that point.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, given the fact that this was not on the agenda this evening, once again, I want to thank Mr. Schmel for coming up and giving a presentation. With that said, I don't think we have anything else on the agenda for this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn at 8:22 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Mayor Woods.